This is the Life by Design with Angela Weiss podcast, episode 34, Tuesday edition, Repairing Relationships, What to Do When Patterns Have Already Played Out. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship thinking, oh, I see what's happening now, but also wondering, is it too late to fix this? Where things have already been said, patterns have already played out, and distance has already happened. Part of you wants to repair it. Part of you really wants to repair it. But another part of you has no clue how to even do that. Or if you even should try to repair it. Sometimes the answer is you shouldn't. If that is where you are, then this episode is for you. If you've been wondering, how do I repair this? Should I repair this? Welcome back to the Life by Design with Angela Weiss podcast. I'm Angela Weiss, nurse practitioner, author, and someone who helps people understand themselves, their relationships, and how to move forward in a way that actually feels healthy and grounded and safe. Before we begin, take a deep breath with me. Inhale. And exhale. Also, do you see this if you're watching right now? My dog. It's storming here, so he's trying to be close. Wherever you are, pause for a moment. This is not a polished podcast. Oh boy, the dogs might bark or be chewing on a bone, and the cats, they do what they do, and I might stumble over the words and pause to take a drink of my strawberry lemonade. Oh, look, he's got a cough today. Could you go somewhere else, please? We're doing something important here. Sorry about that. This is real life, and there are no second takes in real life. I want this to feel like a space where you can show up too, exactly like you are today. Okay, so in the last several episodes, we've been talking about attachment styles, how they form, where they start, how they show up in your everyday life, in your relationships, and how to become more secure, because we all want to be secure. If we're not secure, well, then we're really kind of a wreck, aren't we? We're either fearful, we're avoidant, we're anxious, maybe we're all at some point. Eventually, we need to have awareness, and awareness creates a crossroads, because there's a moment when you stop asking, oh my gosh, why am I like this? Why is my dog like this, right? Why is he like this right now? What do I do now? What do I do now that I know, oh, this is how I show up, this is who I am, and how can I repair this relationship that means so much to me? Do I walk away because it's not getting better? Do I try again? Do I stop trying? I think we've all been there at some point. This is really one of the hardest parts of healing, just understanding what comes next and not staying stuck in it and how to fix it. First, not every relationship is meant to be repaired. Some are not. And I want to say this first. Just because you don't repair it, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Some were meant to teach you something. Some revealed the wounds that you didn't even know that you had. Let me say this. They should all teach you something. Let me go back to that. But some relationships showed you patterns that had been following you for years. Sometimes the people that came into your life were not meant to stay forever, but to kind of wake something up inside of you. It's not meaningless if it doesn't stay forever. And it doesn't mean that you're a failure. We can learn from everything, as we should. Take it and learn what you can, good or bad, and let it make you a better person. I think sometimes people hear conversations about healing and attachment and they assume if I heal enough, every relationship will work out. But that healing doesn't guarantee reconciliation because you don't know what the other person is doing. But healing can give you clarity. And clarity sometimes says this matters enough to fight for it. And sometimes clarity says it's time to walk away. This is hurting me more than it's helping me. Maybe you're the one doing the hurting that isn't helping someone else. We have to own our part in it too, because we always have a part. It's not just the fault of one person. So repair is not sending 12 paragraphs at 2 a.m. to over-explain yourself and then sending some more, trying to convince someone to love you, because you should never have to convince someone to love you. If they're going to love you, they're going to love you. You shouldn't have to prove your worth. They can see it. It's not going to change it by what you say. I think a lot of us confuse panic with repair. Repair is slower than that. It's softer than that. It's more grounded than that when you're repairing something. When you're repairing something, you know that's what you're working towards. It's being able to pause long enough to say, okay, what's actually happening here? How do I fix this? Repair requires accountability. Repair requires honesty. And it's emotional regulation. And accountability and honesty can be hard. Repair is self-awareness, being self-aware of the situation, being self-aware of what you're going through. And sometimes repair, well, it starts with saying, I handled that poorly. I could have done better than that. I should have done better than that. It's not, well, you did this first. You did this to me, and now I'm doing it to you back to you. I'm doing it back to you. Well, because you did this to me, I'm doing it to you, right? It's just, I see my part now. Like, this is how it played out, and I see what I did that could have contributed to the demise of what we went through. I see this a lot in relationships where one person leans anxious and the other leans avoidant, or fearful, anxious and fearful, or fearful avoidant. One of the people in the relationship feels distance and starts reaching harder towards the other person, texting more, calling more, showing up more, trying to fix it immediately, not pausing and listening, backing up. The other person starts to feel overwhelmed. So they pull back even farther, and they need some space. They need some quiet. They need to think for a moment. They need less intensity. And sometimes the other person is just pushing. And what they're doing is pushing the other person more away. And both people end up accidentally triggering each other's deepest fears. They trigger each other's deepest fears. One of them fears abandonment, and the other fears losing themselves in it because they're feeling smothered by the one who's constantly pushing. And what's heartbreaking is usually neither person is actually trying to hurt the other. That's not generally what people are trying to do here, although it often feels like it. They're trying to protect themselves. Have you ever seen yourself in this situation where you felt like somebody was trying to hurt you, but really they were probably just trying to protect themselves? Protection can still cause pain. Wow, it's storming here. I hope you can hear that. Oh my gosh. So one of the most emotional moments in healing is when people finally recognize the pattern in real time as it's happening. Not 6 months later or after the relationship ends when they're like, oh yeah, that's why that happened, or well, that's why I was like that. but in the middle of it while it's actually going on. Because if you can catch it while it's happening, when someone suddenly realizes, oh yeah, I wasn't actually reacting to this moment. I was reacting to every moment that came before this moment. Maybe every time they felt ignored as a child, every relationship where they felt unwanted, every moment they felt too much or they felt not enough. And suddenly it's coming down in this moment in the relationship. That reaction makes sense now, but it has really nothing to do with this person. And it's not because it was healthy, but because pain usually has a history. I'm seeing so much in my mind right now as I say that, and it's so true. Repair, it starts with you. It doesn't start with the other person. Repair starts with you. And it's not about controlling the other person or diagnosing the other person, some TikTok diagnosis that you came up with. It's not trying to force insight onto the other person or force them to do what you want them to do. It starts with asking, what happens inside of me when I feel disconnected? What happens inside of me when I feel this pain or this trigger? Because that's the answer that matters the most. If you lean towards the anxious side, repair may look like not reacting immediately, not sending 5 more texts when someone pulls away, learning how to self-soothe before reaching out, learning how to sit in the silence and the uncomfortableness, alone, sometimes alone. So let me give you a real life example. Maybe someone you care about becomes quieter than usual for one evening. An anxious nervous system may immediately say, I did something wrong. They're upset with me. They're probably going to leave me. I knew this wouldn't last. They always leave. And suddenly your body feels panicked. You can't focus. You keep checking your phone. Maybe you're breathing heavier. Your heart is racing. You feel physically anxious. Maybe you feel nauseous, upset stomach, diarrhea. And without realizing it, you may begin seeking reassurance in ways that feel intense to the other person. It's not because you're being manipulative or trying to be manipulative, although it can come across that way sometimes, but because you're scared. That's a really important distinction between purposely doing something and just reaching out for reassurance. If you lean to the avoidant side, repair may look like staying in the conversation longer than it feels comfortable. Staying in there when you want to walk away, when you want to shut down, when you want to run. Not disappearing emotionally when things require you to become vulnerable or when things feel heavy from the other side. Not shutting down the moment that the emotions rise. Continuing to stay steady. Sometimes avoidant individuals care deeply, but they become overwhelmed by emotional intensity. And so if you're saying something to them that is heavy, they try to run. And instead of saying, I need a little space, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. Instead of saying, I need a little space, but I care about you, they don't know how to say that. So they just vanish emotionally, completely. And to the other person who really needed them to explain, I just need a little space, that silence can feel devastating. I think sometimes people assume avoidant individuals, they don't care. They don't feel deeply. They don't care about anything but themselves. Many do care deeply, very deeply, in fact. It just doesn't generally come across that way. They just learned somewhere that vulnerability didn't feel safe. And so it takes a little bit more for them to open up. It takes a little bit more for them to show their vulnerable side. And it's so frightening to them when they do, because they don't know what's going to be done with it. And fearful attachment can feel especially painful because it swings between both extremes, like we said before. It's the please don't leave me, followed by actually never mind, get away from me. And that can be really confusing. Actually, it can be confusing to both sides. There can be this deep craving for closeness while simultaneously feeling terrified of closeness, because what happens when you get too close? That push-pull dynamic can leave both people feeling emotionally exhausted, and the relationship can just feel so draining. So draining. Repair requires communication that's grounded. Grounded. Steady, not reactive. Not emotionally flooding the other person with all kinds of contact. Not designed to provoke a reaction, not pushing. Not flooding. And honestly, sometimes the healthiest communication is much simpler than people think. It's usually much simpler than people think. We tend to overthink everything and overcomplicate everything when it just doesn't need to be. Instead of, you never care about me, repair sounds a little bit more like, I felt hurt and I felt disconnected. I felt hurt and I felt disconnected. Instead of, you always shut me out. You never let me in. You never tell me anything. Repair sounds like, when things go quiet between us, when you back off, I struggle with fear. When things go quiet between us, I fear you're leaving me or that you don't want me. And understanding that matters. Saying it that way matters, because one way invites defensiveness and the other way invites understanding. And when there's defensiveness, there's walls. And nobody's listening to anybody. They're just both trying to protect themselves. Sometimes they do become healthier, but both people don't generally become healthier at the same time. And that's really hard, because ideally that would happen where both people understand what they bring to the table and they fix it right away, but it doesn't generally happen like that. I've seen people genuinely love each other and still be unable to create a healthy relationship together because the timing, the emotional capacity, or healing, it just didn't align. The timing was so off. One person may finally become ready to communicate after the other person has already emotionally closed down. One person may finally understand, oh, this is my pattern. This is what's wrong. But it's after too much damage has already been occurred. And that's unfortunate. It doesn't mean that the love that they shared, that it wasn't real. It can be very real. Sometimes it means the wounds were louder than the love at the time. Sometimes it means the wounds were louder than the love at the time. And gosh, that's hard to take. And this part matters deeply. Repair requires two people, not one. One person cannot do all the work to repair the relationship. It takes two. It took two to break it. It takes two to repair it. You can't single-handedly heal this relationship by yourself. You can become healthier for you. You can communicate differently. You can become more accountable and self-aware and understanding and thoughtful for you. But the other person, they have to still be willing to participate, because no matter how good you become, if they're not willing to participate, none of that matters for the relationship. And one of the hardest things emotionally mature people sometimes learn is that love alone is not enough. You can love someone all day long, but if they're not putting in the work too, you can't do it all. Mutual effort matters. Emotional safety matters. Consistency matters. Willingness from both parties matters. You'll usually know a relationship has potential for repair when both people can self-reflect. Both people can acknowledge hurt, that they hurt each other and that they were hurt, and that both people are willing to have difficult conversations and stay in them and not push. And both people are trying. They don't have to do this perfectly, but they have to be sincere about what they're putting into it. Healthy relationships are not built by perfect people, because there are no perfect people and there are no perfect relationships, but there can be healthy relationships built by people willing to repair and able to repair after the rupture has occurred. And sometimes repair is not the healthiest option. And that's hard. Sometimes the dynamic becomes emotionally unsafe. And sometimes the relationship becomes chronically one-sided. Sometimes repeated patterns continue despite insight into learning who you are and what you need. And sometimes secure attachment looks like walking away from what continually causes harm to you and the other person. And it's not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally started loving yourself too. You can't give everything you have away to somebody who's not willing to give anything back. Stop giving everything you've got to people who don't want to be a part of this relationship the way that you do. Repair is not about recreating that old version of the relationship. You want a better one. Because sometimes the old version is exactly what broke both of you. You know, we think, oh, I miss it when it was like this. Well, it's not like that anymore for a reason. Repair is about creating something different, something better, something more intentional, and something more aware, something more understanding, more emotionally honest. And sometimes that rebuilding happens together. Sometimes it does. And sometimes it happens separately. So I have an attachment workbook. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'd like to know more about that. I want to understand my patterns better. I want to show up better for this relationship. Or I just want to stop repeating the same relationship dynamics. I don't want to get caught up in this again. You can email me at angela@lifebydesignpress.org and put attachment workbook in the subject, and I'll send that to you for free. I've had a lot of really great feedback from this. It walks through attachment styles, real life relationship scenarios, communication patterns, and triggers. There's some healing tools in it and exercises to help you become more secure and more grounded, better off for yourself and your relationship. So if you'd like that copy, just email me. I'll send it to you. I also have a book coming soon, a workbook that will be available soon on Amazon about attachment styles as well. Okay, so we've talked a lot about all of this, and really we've got to heal these attachment styles so that we can be in healthy relationships. You're not defined by the worst moments in your relationships, but I sure hope that you're learning from them so that you can be better. You're not defined by every fear-based response you've ever had. Awareness, it changes things. It changes who you are. It changes how we show up, and it heals things, and healing changes things too. So thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you for working towards healing your relationships. If this was helpful to you, please share this with someone else, because growth often begins the moment someone becomes honest enough to say, I don't want to keep repeating this. And there are probably some other people out there that my goodness, I just need to stop talking today, don't I? That might need to hear this. If you feel like you're in a crisis, please call 911 or 988, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. This podcast is for educational purposes only and does not create a provider relationship with me. Thank you so much for being here. We'll talk more about permission to stand down on Thursday and more on the Faith Edition on Sunday. Please like, follow, and share. You can connect with me at my website and blog, which I'll put in the show notes, or at Angela Weiss Author on Instagram, or Life by Design Press on Facebook. Hope you have a wonderful day.